good evening. Glad you could join us once again for our Thursday chat show here from Sheffield Live TV. It's all rather neat tonight, including the sartorial way that both my guests are dressed. It's neat because we have a former Sheffield Wednesday player who now works nearby for Chesterfield, and we have a former Chesterfield player, indeed a legend of the club no less, who now works for Sheffield Wednesday. I'm very glad to introduce or reintroduce for repeat visits to Sheffield Live, Tommy Lee and Miguel Llera. Thanks very much for coming in, gents. Miguel, starting with you, I mean, you work behind the scenes at Chesterfield, having had this very distinguished career, obviously at Hillsborough, and we'll talk more about that later, and Tommy's just started there. Your role there is under 18 coach, am I correct there?
Yeah. My role is, good night everybody. My role is PDP coach, Chesterfield Football Club. It's slightly different because Chesterfield is Cat 3. We don't have anything above my team, and then we are doing the same role that one reserve team in Sheffield Wednesday can do it, and then it's really important for the club, and it's an important role because we are really close to the first team. My routine is, like I say, to be the reserve team. I have to speak with the first team manager every day. If he needs player from me, he's taking for to do number in training. I'm very happy for the job because I am close to the first team. That environment is something that I miss a lot and really enjoy it with the lads.
Well, you're the direct feeder then to the first team with the under-18s. And Tommy, you've been working now for Sheffield Wednesday as the academy goalkeeping coach for how long? A few weeks, 7 weeks?
Yeah, about 8 weeks now.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. It's the sort of job that I wanted to start my coaching career with. So I was really fortunate that the position came up when Nicky Weaver moved up to the first team, and I interviewed for the job, and fortunately enough I got it, and I'm really enjoying it down there.
Well, you're both of an age where you could almost still be playing. Miguel, I mean, you're below 40 anyway.
Yeah, well,
that's
yeah,
for sure.
nearly there.
Just, and of course, Tommy, very sadly, you had to finish your career very prematurely, especially for a goalkeeper. Still only 32. Does that, when you're working with young keepers now, do you ever get that pang of, well, not so much regret, but that pain of, well, I should be doing this still?
Funnily enough, my first couple of weeks at the club, I sort of had to distance myself from the playing side of it because I almost felt like a player still. Like you say, yeah. I'm still young. Other than my shoulder, I'm fit. But I just try and impress on the lads that I work with how lucky they are to be in the position they're in. Young, fit players doing what they love doing, and I think if you can impress that on the lads, from my experience, it can only help them going forward, definitely.
And they're getting opportunities like there's no tomorrow, aren't they?
It's fantastic. Oh, it's fantastic, and I think that's down to the manager and the bravery of the manager, because the previous manager didn't really look to the academy for players, but this manager, similar to Sir Alex Ferguson from my time at Man United, if you were good enough, you're old enough, and I think that's the way it's got to be.
Yeah, I was down at the training ground today and talking to Jos Lukai, and he certainly was asked a question about the number of young players he promoted, and he was quite clear that he'd have done it regardless. His interest, although subsequent to his appointment, the club hit financial fair play problems, that they weren't around when he joined, but that he was making the point that he was going to do it anyway, and quite clearly.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, and I think the strength of an academy isn't always the amount of players that I get in the first team, because at the end of the day, if a manager doesn't want to play young players, regardless of how good they are, then it's probably looked upon that, actually the academy ain't producing players. But I think we've seen in Sheffield Wednesday's case that they're absolutely producing players, and now they're getting the rewards.
And I think you both work for clubs, obviously in very different circumstances, but in the same circumstance, in that both football clubs need to rely quite heavily now on producing their own players. From the FFP point of view at Wednesday, and of course Chesterfield, very sadly, now out of the Football League, in the National League, and it's a hell of a fight it's going to be to get out of that. But great news on the academy front this week, Miguel. going to be continuing as a Category 3 academy until at least the end of next season. So that must have reassured a few people.
Yeah, of course, overall for the lads, because I think that this year a lot of 15, 16 was a little bit concerned in regard that the club couldn't offer to them the scholarship. And I think that next week the club going to have a good meeting with all the parents and all the players that belong to the academy to clarify the future of them, to tell them that the club have a future in the last at least a couple of years. And then I think that we have to move things forward for building an academy, because now came a new academy manager with new ideas, and we have to do a long way to go to building a better academy to produce players for the first team.
And you're working to John Pemberton, recently appointed as academy head. I suppose he wouldn't have gone there anyway if he wasn't confident in the future of the academy, would he?
Yeah.
Really. So, okay, Tommy. Obviously, the two goalkeepers that Sheffield Wednesday have got in senior positions at the moment are quite establishing themselves, really. Cameron Dawson and Joe Wildsmith. Who are you working with specifically at the academy, and is it an incentive for those young goalkeepers that they've seen these two come through the ranks like that?
Yeah, it's absolutely an incentive. I think there won't be too many clubs in English football that have got number 1 and number 2 goalkeepers who've come through the academy, and I think that's testament to the work that was done previously in the goalkeeper department. Again, testament to the manager for having the confidence in those young players, and the goalkeepers I'm working with can now see a clear pathway into a first team. And for a coach now, and I'm sure Miguel will agree, if players can actually see that pathway and actually see the fact that, do you know what, if I perform, I'm good enough, this manager's going to give me a chance. It's a massive incentive, not just goalkeepers, for outfield players as well at the football club.
And of course, Nicky Weaver was doing your job previously. He's now working with the senior keepers.
Yeah, and I think Weaves has done a cracking job there with Joe and Cammy, and also Rhodesy, who's now at Oldham.
Yeah. What are your views on your old team at Hillsborough and the way the season has been going? I'm sure you retain a keen interest, Miguel. What do you make of it?
Obviously, really always really close to show what is happening at Sheffield Wednesday. Glad to bring people like him into with his experience and his football background into the academy, because it's going to be a massive push for the player. No? I think that bring people that have been explored with the CV and the background, and people like him has, well, it's a massive push for them, because I think that bring young people with the experience that he has played, he's going to help them, because they see that he's currently, he knows what he have to do to be pro. And then bring people like him into the academy, it's a massive push for the player, because it's one thing that I realized when I started to coach. I knows what he's thinking, what the player is thinking. It's a massive advantage. He knows the advice that he has. You ensure that just even the goalkeeper don't need to speak with him. He knows what he's thinking. He knows his body shape. I think there's a massive advantage, and this is going to bring a massive boost for the player.
Both of you are relatively close in age to the players that you're dealing with. I say it's all relative. I mean, you're probably twice their age, or maybe a little bit more. But even so, you're both in your 30s. You can perhaps relate a little bit more closely to not only them as footballers, but how they live their lives as well. In this modern age, it's a different animal.
It is, and I think to be a good coach, you need to have a lot of different attributes. But I think being younger and having careers like Miguel had, like I had to a lesser extent in English football, I think if Miguel's telling a young defender, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to act this way, you need to act that way, it's probably going to carry a little bit more weight than perhaps someone who didn't have that sort of career. Now, that's not to say you have to have a football career to be a good coach, but I think definitely in that aspect, it does help, definitely.
Well, you're both modern names, aren't you?
Well, that's it, yeah. Recently retired in the game, and yeah, I think it does help. It certainly helps me when I can say to a young goalkeeper, this is what I used to do, I had success doing this, I didn't have success doing that, and like I say, it probably does carry a little bit more weight.
Okay. In fact, you two briefly worked together, didn't you? The back end of last season when Ian Evatt was in caretaker charge at Chesterfield. So you're not strangers to each other. And then, of course, Martin Allen comes in, and he's a figure that, for all the depression that understandably is around Chesterfield's results this season, commands a certain fascination, you know, way outside this area because of his profile as a person. You work for him, you deal with him on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think of him, what your relationship's like.
No, I think that I have to be lucky to be close to the people that he trusts. I'm very proud for that. Because I was very honest from him from the first time that I met him. I met him like a player. After we have some meetings before, but I never been dealing with him in the daily basis. I think that he trusts me because I am honest with him, and I think that he gives a lot of value to that. I am proud to not just I am coaching the team below, and I have a good relation with all the members of the staff. I'm scouting for him. I used to go to a scouting team from him, or just his last signing, Tom Denton, I was scouting from him before signing. I think that our relation is very close. Unfortunately, the last result in the last 2 or 3 months wasn't the best. But I think that he's the right person for the club. He knows what he's doing. When he came on, he changed the mentality of the club. He changed the mentality of the fans. He changed the mentality because the fans was a losing mentality for all the people around the club, and he brought a new mentality and a strong personality into the club. He changed everything. Something from the first day. And he was in charge. It's not easy because the dynamic was difficult in the last 2 or 3 years. So
you're convinced, and people will say, "Oh, you would say that," you know, but you're working with him. But I mean, it's a hard sell at the moment because 13 matches is a long time to go without a win for a club that, outside at least, was expected to be right up there. And in fact, Martin Allen himself would have expected that, wouldn't he? I think he came in expecting to be first or second.
Yeah, obviously now I was expecting after the first 3 games winning in a row to have 8 or 9 without wins. But the people that saw the games in the league was really tight, and then it wasn't worse team than the opposition team. I think that football, the luck factor a lot of time is very determined result, and he didn't have too much luck.
You think it's fine margins then? Certainly, defeats have usually been by 1 or a couple of goals at most. I'm kind of clinging on to a few consolations here, and you're absolutely convinced he can turn. What about the reputation he has? This Mad Dog nickname. He's reckoned to be very eccentric, you know, in the way ahead. Is that right or wrong?
Well, the people say mad. I don't think that he's mad. He's really clever. He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. He loves the discipline. The discipline not just in the changing room with the people around him. He knows what he's doing. He's the people can. It's tough working with him because we have to do what he wants when he wants. We are open to do it because he's the person that knows what we have to do. His background says that he had 2 promotions in the last 3 or 4 years, and then he's the person more knowledgeable to come back the team into the League Two.
He certainly handles the pressure of this situation very well publicly as well. You know that. He's been extremely honest, you know, in facing. It's always better to be honest, I think, with supporters than it is to try and paint a rosier picture than exists. You know?
Yeah, and I can only speak from personal experience, but I recently had my testimonial at the club, and the day after it was announced, I'd never met Martin Allen other than playing against his teams, and the day after my testimonial was announced by the club, he rung me. and said to me, whatever I can do for you, I will do it to make it a success. He had me in at the club. I did a couple of sessions with the goalkeepers, so I worked quite closely with him for a few days, and I could see then, I can echo what Miguel's saying in that outwardly he probably does look like is a bit of a madman, if you like, but behind closed doors he knows how he wants his team to play, he knows what he wants his staff to do, he knows what he wants his individual players to do, and like all managers, he'll live and die by his results. But I think once he finds that settled team, and once he can put the same 11 on the pitch every week, I think we'll probably see Chesterfield going up the table. And you talk about the right man for the job. The right man for the job is the man who can get results. And I think once that team's settled, I think we'll start seeing some results, and I hope we do.
Okay, a little pain is worth the gain, and then certainly there's every sign of sticking by. The choice of the owner, Dave Allen, let's be honest, fair and square, that was his choice, and I think Martin Allen will continue to be supported and backed from what you read into it from the outside. Against Fylde in the FA Cup this weekend is the fixture. Sheffield Wednesday at home to Middlesbrough. That's on Friday, so we've all got an opportunity to see that either at the ground or on TV. And Sheffield United at Derby County. Talking of TV, I mean, watching the other night England. Now then, a modern day goalkeeping coach as you are, and you see Jordan Pickford the goalkeeper creating goals like that, it's putting a different slant and perspective on the goalkeeping role, isn't it, these days?
Absolutely. 10 years ago, if you'd have said to me, what's the first thing scouts, managers look for in a goalkeeper or ask for, is how tall is he? That's still important, but now the first question is, what's it like with the ball at his feet? And I think that's a little change in how football's changing in this country, but how the position of a goalkeeper's changing. You need to be able to play football. You've got to be the 11th outfield player now, and I think we saw from Jordan Pickford, probably one of the, in terms of distribution, an almost perfect performance in terms of how goalkeepers need to play today, and we see it week in, week out with Edison and Alisson, and they're going to give goals away. It's going to happen. You know, he nearly got caught out, probably should have conceded a penalty there when he tried to do the Cruyff turn, but I'm sure if you were to ask Gareth Southgate, he'd take 2 or 3 of them a season if it meant he's going to produce the sort of distribution that gets his team up the other end of the pitch and starts attacks off.
I mean, Cameron Dawson, you know, has had a bit of stick from 1 or 2, but he's carrying out. I was with Jos Luhukay today, and he took great delight in what he saw from England and Pickford the other night. So that's exactly what he's driving for at Hillsborough, isn't it?
That's a modern day goalkeeper now, and goalkeeping's changed. Goalkeeping now is different to what it was 10 years ago. Distribution is right up there with how most managers want their teams to play, and I'm biased, but it's the most important position on the field for me.
It changes things for central defenders as well, Miguel. Goalkeepers playing from the backs. Not probably in your career. It's probably not what you wanted to see, was it?
Well, I think that, like you say, the modern football demand a goalkeeping coach, a goalkeeper good with the ball in his feet. You know? I think that from 10 times that the goalkeeper touch the ball, 8 of is with the feet.
Yes.
And then they have to be good with the ball in feet. And more in modern football than Guardiola came on, everybody want to play from the back. It's vital to have a good goalkeeper. It's not chance to play from the back. I think that, like I say, everybody want to play football. You don't have a goalkeeper good enough with the ball in his feet. It's not chance to play. No?
Yeah, it's changed the whole emphasis on budding goalkeepers now. You know, kids who want to be keepers, they want to make great stops and whatever, take crosses, but they've got to be footballers.
I mean, that is still important. That is still, I'd probably say that's still the number one, but it's got to be married with the ability to play around with the back four, to play through the lines and to play beyond and get a Harry Kane on the end of things and beat Spain.
We'd all want a Harry Kane. Fascinating. There's going to be more of this in 5 minutes. Do rejoin us with these 2 guys and James as well. See you then.